This is Radar for On the Radar Entertainment Blog with another weekly baseball observation for the offseason. Dealing with overseas signings first, Dan Straley, after a miserable year with Miami cutting him and then going to Baltimore, ending up on Philadelphia's AAA team at the end of the season, he has decided to go overseas to Korea. Adam Jones, after not getting a deal with the Diamondbacks until spring training-ish time this year, he decided he'd rather get paid for a multi-year deal in Japan to spend the next couple of years between ages 34 and 86 of his life making money and being a star in Japan. Despite the fact that there could be at least a dozen teams that could have signed him because they need either a veteran center fielder or a corner outfielder. Now, re-signings. Charlie Culberson, after being non-tendered, the Braves brought him back because they love him. He's a utility player. That's a good thing. Cubs re-signed Brandon Morrow to a deep minor league deal because when healthy, he was pretty good, but it's a question of if. Jesse Hahn has the talent to pitch when he was healthy, but that's an if. So the Royals give him another chance to re-sign him. Phillies re-signed Phil Gosselin because as of now, as of before this Phil Gosselin signed, they didn't have a second baseman or a third baseman. So Gosselin and Josh Harrison will compete for backup jobs with a chance to play because he did play a lot of innings last year for them. Brett Gardner, that's a major league re-signing with Tommy John surgery for the shoulder for Aaron Hicks. They don't have a center fielder, so re-signing Brett Gardner was a good thing for the Yankees. Rockies signed Drew Butera back to a minor league deal. As of right now, they don't have a catcher outside of Tony Walter, but he's a backup, so that's what you do. Junior Guerra re-signed with the Nationals because their bullpen is a mess, and you need to take a flyer on anybody who used to be a closer, and he pitched for them okay enough this year. Alex Claudio, the Brewers have let a lot of pitchers go, so might as well re-sign him. They need pitching no matter if it's starting or relieving. And Kean Broxton, after spending time with the Mets, Baltimore, and Seattle, he's re-signed a deal with Milwaukee. You never know. He could make the team as a fifth outfielder. So it's not a re-signing, he just goes back to where he was. Now the Mets, who let Zach Wheeler go in free agency until they used to with the Phillies and traded Jason Vargas at the deadline this year, but also picked up Marcus Stroman. They got Stroman because they knew they were going to lose Wheeler because the rotation of DeGrom, Matz, Syndergaard, and Stroman is pretty good on its own. And I signed Michael Wacha because he's under the age of 30, but he's also battled injuries, so it's a what if. There were plans of stretching out Gazelman and Lugo potentially to fill the fifth spot, but now they don't have to do that because they signed Wacha. But then they go out and sign Rick Porcello, who had a bad year with the Red Sox, who's a ground ball pitcher, and the Mets, Ahmed Rosario, hasn't proven that he's a great defensive shortstop, and Cano's lost a step, and they still don't know who's going to play third base. So it's a bad idea. They have a six-man rotation with a guy like Wacha who hasn't been healthy. Matz and Syndergaard, at some point they'll get hurt because they always do. And Porcello is trying to rebuild his value on a one-year deal. He could have got a multi-year deal, whatever. They now have six starters when they only need one, and they need to spend the money on bullpen help, and they did not. So it's they got six starters, but not enough relievers. The Brewers, after non-tendering Jimmy Nelson, trading Chase Sand to the Blue Jays, and trading Zach Davies to San Diego, Gio Gonzalez became a free agent, Jordan Lyles became a free agent, and Jordan Lyles, let's talk about him quickly, he signed a multi-year deal with the Rangers. Now, when healthy, he's great, but he's bouncing around from team to team because he can't stay healthy, and he's not consistent. So the Rangers continue to go with Lance Lynn, Mike Minor, Jordan Lyles, Kyle Gibson, all back-end guys. So Milwaukee lost him in free agency. And they non-tendered also Junior Guerra, who, let's speak about him, the Diamondbacks signed. The Diamondbacks only have two guaranteed spots, Robbie Ray and Mike Leake. The rest of the rotation is not guaranteed because they don't have any. They traded Greinke away and other guys left their free agency. So they don't have a guaranteed spot in the rotation for anybody except for two. So Garrett could become the fifth starter or become a reliever. So Milwaukee had no pitching. You're like, what are they going to do? Well, they go out and get Josh Lindblom, who is a failed prospect who battled injuries in his career and went overseas. They think that they found themselves a lottery ticket, that this guy's going to turn out to be good stateside like Colby Lewis and Mike Mikolas and other guys who went overseas and then came back and improved. And they also signed Brett Anderson. Brett Anderson's a fine number 5 starter because he pitches under 5 ERA, pitches 200 innings, tries to have a winning record. But if my rotation is Woodruff, who was an all-star last year but also got hurt, followed by Brett Anderson, followed by Josh Lindblom, I'm not that excited for Milwaukee's playoff chances without a rotation piece. When you get rid of 3 of your best pitchers and you get rid of 2 of the veterans you had on your team, it's like, what are you doing there? Now, the Red Sox signed Martin Perez. They lost Andrew Cashner and Rick Porcello to free agency, and they're relying on injured and overpaid David Price, Chris Sale, continues to battle injuries, and Nathan Eovaldi, who's missed their Tommy John 2 or 3 times, and Eduardo Rodriguez, who can't stay healthy. So signing Martin Perez, he'll fit right in with injury-prone pitchers because they needed a body. They signed Jose Peraza because Brock Holt's a free agent. They cut Eduardo Nunez. And Michael Chavis is not a great defensive player. Plus, they don't have a first baseman, so Chavis could become the first baseman for this team. And Peraza, who played left field and even some center field this year for the Reds after losing his shortstop job because they signed Iglesias at the beginning of the year, and he was battling with other people at second base. He could become the Red Sox starting second baseman, or it turns out to be a good utility investment because he's still young. So the Red Sox needed a starting pitcher, and they needed a second baseman, so they got 2 of those. Tigers, between Grayson Greiner and Jacob Rogers, they think Rogers may need more seasoning. His name is Jacob or Jason, whatever. He needs more seasoning, and Grayson Greiner is a good backup. Jonathan Hicks is no longer in the team, and Bobby Wilson, who also caught innings for them, just became a free agent, and he got hired by the Rangers to be the Double-A manager. So their options were slim. So instead of spending a lot of money on a huge veteran, they signed Austin Romine, whose brother Andrew Romine, who was the backup for the Tigers, and he was one of those guys who played every single position for the team. And in one game, he did that. He played every single position, including catching and pitching in a game when the Tigers were out of the race. So Austin Romine is going to join the Tigers after his brother already played there for a while as a utility player. So that's interesting there because they needed that. The Tigers also picked up Jorge Bonifacio, guy who's failed PEDs, has never up the potential, the younger brother Emilio Bonifacio, to a minor league deal. The Tigers don't know who's going to play right field or left field. So buy a low candidate and a young guy, good idea. Blue Jays, they needed pitching. They got Chase Anderson and Anthony Bass in trades. Well, they went inside Tanner Roark, who is another good guy to have as your 4th or 5th starter. It's not going to help the Blue Jays because Stroman and Aaron Sanchez, are both gone from the rotation, the front 2 guy, and every other veteran they've had the past couple of years, they also got rid of. So it's a nice piece to throw in Roark with Chase Anderson, but it's not going to help the Blue Jays win anything. The Dodgers signed Blake Treinen, who had a horrible year, lost his job to Liam Hendriks. Dodgers not tendered him. The A's tendered him, and the Dodgers need a setup man because Joe Kelly didn't work out. So if Joe Kelly, Blake Treinen, and Kenley Jansen's your bullpen, you're better off where you were going into the season. Phillies signed Didi Gregorius, and that's going to push Gene Segura to shortstop, which I don't like the idea of signing a guy so you can push somebody else over. So that's going to be their double play combination. That's fine by them. He needs a 1-year deal to rebound. They gave up a draft. There was no draft pick attached because the Yankees didn't know anybody would sign him. So he gets to reunite with Joe Girardi. Good for him. Hopefully he reestablishes value and goes somewhere else next year. The Giants, because Madison Bumgarner is a free agent, they traded most of their pitchers away at the deadline. Starters or relievers, they don't have a lot of pitching. So signing Kevin Gausman again. Nice guy to fill in the back of the rotation, but Samardzija and Johnny Cueto at this point in their careers, due to their age and health concerns, they're not 1s or 2s. They're like 3s and 4s. So they need help pitching-wise. But they went and also got Zach Kozar in a trade because the Angels want to clear cap space, and they realized they were stupid enough to play Zach Kozar back-to-back seasons at third base and get hurt and miss most of the season both times. The Giants already have a third baseman, Evan Longoria, and they have Brandon Crawford. Zach Kozar will just take Joe Panik's spot / Scooter Jeanette's spot at second base. That's fine. Zach Kozar should have always been playing second base for the Angels, but they didn't know what they were doing. So they took on his massive contract, but they also got a prospect for the Angels. So the Angels are giving away prospects. They gave away prospects for Dylan Bundy, and they gave away a prospect to the Giants. They're wheeling and dealing there. And the Royals, who re-signed Jesse Hahn because they need pitching depth, they signed Trevor Rosenthal to a minor league deal. Rosenthal didn't work out with the National this year, and he bounced around between the Tigers and the Yankees. Hopefully he's a buy low candidate where he actually pitches well enough the Royals can flip into somebody, but that's just organizational depth there. Now, the biggest things that happened this week at the winter meetings besides the Rule 5 draft were the White Sox traded for Nomar Mazara. The White Sox will have their first starting right fielder in years who's actually been a right fielder his whole major league and minor league career and not masquerading an infielder in the outfield or pushing somebody over to right field that's better suited to play left field. They got him. He's 24, he had a down year, get injured, but 19 home runs and 6-7 yard bat is not bad. He's going to probably, if he's healthy, with everybody hitting 30 home runs, if he stays healthy, I can see a 25, 28, 30 home run season and a 70, 80 RBI season because the White Sox went and got Grandal. Eloy's in his second season. Moncada and Tim Anderson are on the team, and you still have Jose Abreu. And Robert and Madrigal are going to come up. and you still have McCann besides Grandal. So we're not going to ask Nomar Mazara to bat third or fourth like he did in Texas, or even lead off for second like he did in Texas. He's going to bat seventh or eighth in this lineup, so it shouldn't be that high expectations or anybody being upset, because who wants to give up a draft pick to get get Marcell Ozuna? Who wants to give up all that money to Castellanos, who's a defensive liability in right field? Same thing with Ozuna, and they're going to be in their 30s, wrong side of 30s. So the Sox made a smart move. They've cleared up right field and catching position / DH. Now we got to wait on starting pitching. Now the biggest thing that happened besides that trade was three of the biggest free agents, Zach Wheeler and Grandal, they were off the market. Wheeler was one of the best pitchers, and Grandal was the best catcher. So far, the best outfielders have not come off the market. The best second basemen have not come off the market, or even the first baseman. Only Didi Gregorius is one of the best shortstops, of one of the infielders best on the market that got taken. So the best third baseman on the market, Anthony Rendon, follows Bryce Harper as another guy who leaves the Nationals after one season and goes somewhere else. He signed basically for almost as much money as Steven Strasburg to another long-term deal for the Anaheim Angels. The Angels have a history of signing guys to long deals like Hamilton and Albert Pujols when they didn't actually need him. But the Angels did need a third baseman. For the last couple of seasons, the Angels did not have a third baseman, and they finally got one, and he's a two-way player. But he's going to be there for a long time. He could be turning albatross like Albert Pujols' contract, but Albert Pujols' contract should be done in a couple of years. So if Rendon slips defensively, you can always move him to first base because Ohtani's DHing. But the Angels now will have a lineup that potentially has Trout, Rendon, Pujols, Upton, Ohtani. And when Joe Adell comes up, that lineup, and Andrelton Simmons, and they're going to play David Fletcher at second base, it's not a bad lineup. All they don't have is a catcher, and that's it. As I mentioned, Strasburg, he went back to the Nationals, signed the largest contract ever for a pitcher, yada, 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 all these years. But then Garrett Cole outdid him and signed a contract for even longer, 9 years, for even more money. And the evil empire of the Yankees are back, and they're signing players. So the Yankees now have that ace they never had, because last time they had ace was CC Sabathia, because when they traded for J. Happ and James Paxton, they weren't aces, because Paxton never was an ace, because Felix Hernandez was the ace in Seattle. Tanaka wasn't really an ace, and Severino has the potential to be an ace because of his talent, but he's never been healthy. So if Severino's your number 3, Tanaka's your number 2, Paxton's your number 4, and J. Happ's your number 5, the Yankees have a better rotation, and they don't have to rely on their bullpen and their position players anymore, because they'll have Garrett Cole. Now, Garrett Cole may regress because he's not under Houston teachings of how to pitch, that's where his best seasons were with Houston. But he was the best pitcher who was younger on the market without the same injury concerns as Strasburg, and he should have won the Cy Young this year. So the Yankees did what they're supposed to. They needed starting pitching, they went out and got it. They re-signed Brett Gardner, they did that. The Nationals had to keep Strasburg because they knew they weren't going to keep Anthony Rendon. And what got the Nationals to the World Series? Pitching. Having a rotation of Strasburg, Scherzer, Patrick Corbin, Anibal Sanchez, that's what got him through the World Series, okay? They could fill third base with Josh Donaldson, Chris Bryant. There's many guys on the market who can play multiple positions who can play third base. Howie Kendrick can play third base. The Nationals will be fine offensively because they have a stud outfield, and they got Trey Turner, and they got a good catching duo. They needed what they had to do was get a pitcher. The Angels got Rendon, but as I told you, they missed out on Garrett Cole and Strasburg, and they need pitching. Because no offense to Andrew Heaney and Dylan Bundy, and if Ohtani is anywhere near he's supposed to be as a pitcher, Ohtani's a question mark, Dylan Bundy's a question mark. Andrew Heaney's the only non-question mark, but he is a middle to back end rotation starter. And if they don't sign Madison Bumgarner, Dallas Keuchel, I don't know what the Angels are going to do. They can call the Diamondbacks, they call other teams that have pitchers, but I don't know what the Angels are going to do, because even with the Anthony Rendon signing, I don't think they're better than the Rangers. Because the Rangers, even though they patched their rotation is better than the Angels. Their bullpen is better because Leclerc is a much better closer than the Angels don't have a closer. And the Rangers still have Joey Gallo, Shin-Soo Choo, and Elvis Andrus, Rougned Odor, and Willie Calhoun. So they're a little bit better. The Angels may have a little bit better of an offense, but it's not that far of a difference. And the A's and the Astros are still better than the Angels. So all the things the Angels done, they're going to probably finish in fourth place again. Nationals still have a good chance to win their division, and the Yankees have a good chance to win their division. Thanks for listening to another weekly baseball observation recap for the off seasons. For On the Radar Entertainment Blog, I'm Raider. See you next week.